They said the woods were empty. They said help would come. But when the night fell and the fire died, we realized something. We weren't alone. The people we found out here, they smiled, they shared food, they called themselves survivors. But by the second night, I saw what they were eating. This isn't a rescue story. This is a warning. Because once you've tasted hunger in the dark, it never lets you go.
Chapter 1. Chapter 1. They said the woods were safe. The crash didn't sound like metal. It sounded like bone. A deep, cracking finality that echoed through the trees before the night swallowed everything. When Evan opened his eyes, the world had gone quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't mean peace, but the moment after something terrible happens, when even the air forgets how to move. Smoke curled from the hood of the overturned car, the smell of burnt plastic mixed with wet pine and gasoline. He lay half-crushed against the door, his seatbelt cutting into his shoulder, breath fogging the cracked windshield. Rain whispered against the glass. For a while he couldn't move, just stared at the shattered mirror, the reflection of his own eye staring back, wide, animal, not sure yet if it belonged to the living. He said it out loud, just to hear a voice again. Just stay alive. The words came out broken, but the sound helped. It gave him something to hold on to. He pulled the buckle, slid out, felt the ground tilt beneath him. Needles of pain shot through his ribs. His hands were slick with something warm, but he didn't look down. The car was on its side, headlights still flickering, a single cone of light cutting through the mist. He limped toward it, calling softly into the rain. "Hello? Anyone?" Only the woods answered. The forest stretched endlessly, a cathedral of wet bark and shadow. The road behind him was gone, eaten by fog. The trees leaned close, like they were listening. He could smell rot beneath the rain, wet earth, something older. He found his phone, cracked but glowing. No signal, no bars, just the faint reflection of his blood-smeared face on the screen. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. He laughed, but it didn't sound like him. Lightning flashed. For a heartbeat, he saw the world clear. The twisted car, the broken branches, and just beyond them, something pale. A figure standing at the edge of the woods. When thunder followed, the figure was gone. He told himself it was the rain, the shock, the adrenaline. People see shapes in storms all the time. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone, no, something, was waiting just beyond the trees. He grabbed his coat from the wreck, the flashlight from the glove box, and started walking. He didn't know where, just away from the crash, deeper into the woods. The beam of light shook in his hand. Every time it caught on a branch or a broken stump, his heart kicked. The forest was wrong. He couldn't explain why, but the air felt thick, heavy, like he was walking through something that didn't want him there. "Just stay alive," he whispered again. "Just stay alive." The phrase became a rhythm, a heartbeat. Every step, every breath. Stay alive. He found a path, or maybe it found him. A narrow trail winding between tall pines, faint footprints already washed half away by rain. Someone had been here, recently. He followed. Hours passed, though outside, the night stayed the same. The flashlight dimmed, his legs burned. Every few steps, he'd hear a branch crack behind him, but when he turned, there was only fog. He tried to remember the crash, the road sign, the last thing he saw before impact. He remembered headlights, 2, then 4, then too many, like eyes. He shook the thought away. Concussion, blood loss, stay focused. When the path curved, he saw it. A faint glow between the trees, orange, flickering. A fire. Relief flooded him so fast it hurt. He stumbled forward, calling out, voice raw, desperate. "Hey, over here, But as he got closer, his voice fell away. The fire burned strangely steady, flames rising tall, but without smoke. Around it were stones, perfect circles, too perfect. And beside the fire, something lay wrapped in cloth. He stopped breathing. The shape was human. He stepped closer, heart thundering. The rain hissed as it met the heat, filling the clearing with steam. When he crouched, the cloth twitched, just slightly. He froze. The firelight pulsed, bright enough to blind him for a second, and when his eyes cleared, the shape was gone. Nothing but wet earth where it had been. Evan stumbled backward, breath tearing out of him, scanning the trees. Silence. Then, a whisper. Soft, close, right behind him. "Stay alive." He turned, swinging the flashlight wildly. Empty air. He backed away, feet slipping in the mud, until he reached the tree line again. He didn't look back at the fire. He couldn't. Something deep inside told him not to. He just kept walking, deeper into the woods that shouldn't exist, whispering the words that had already begun to change their meaning. "Just stay alive," he said. And somewhere, the woods whispered it back.
Chapter 2. Chapter 2. We found the camp. The woods didn't sleep. They just waited. Evan walked until the world stopped making sense. The trees grew denser, the air heavier, wet with mist and something metallic beneath it, a smell he couldn't name. His flashlight had died hours ago, and now only the moon lit his way. Each step sank into soft earth. He told himself it was mud, not rot. He'd stopped saying, "Just stay alive." Now he whispered, "Find someone." The forest seemed to hear him. It started with the smell of smoke. Not the kind from his wrecked car. This was cleaner, warmer, a campfire. He pushed through a line of trees, and there it was, a clearing, wide and round, bordered by roots that looked like ribs bursting from the soil. In the center, a fire burned bright orange, too bright. The flames rose high, steady as candlelight, with no flicker of wind and no trail of smoke. Around it sat 5 people, 3 men, 2 women, all motionless, faces turned toward the fire as if in prayer. Evan hesitated. His throat tightened. Then one of them turned. "Hey!" A voice, clear and calm. A woman stood and waved him closer. "You're hurt." Her name, she said, was Marla. She looked mid-30s, strong, weathered, though her eyes had the kind of calm you only see in people who've already stopped hoping. Evan stepped into the firelight. The heat should have burned, but it didn't. It just hummed, like standing too close to a power line. The others looked up. Each one smiled at him. Too easily. He couldn't explain it.
Something about their faces didn't move quite right when they smiled. The eyes stayed still. Still, he was too tired to care. Marla helped him sit. Her hands were warm. "We've been here a while," she said softly. "You're lucky we found you." He looked around. Their camp was neat, perfectly neat. No ash piles, no scattered supplies, no mess of leaves or damp clothes. Everything was arranged, clean, deliberate. "Are you stranded too?" he asked. Marla smiled. "Something like that." Behind her, one of the men stirred a pot suspended over the flames. Whatever was cooking smelled rich and unfamiliar, like meat, but not quite. Evan's stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since before the crash. Marla handed him a bowl. "Eat. Rest. You're safe here." He took it. The broth was thick, steaming. When he lifted it to his mouth, the scent changed. Sharp, sweet, almost floral. "What is it?" he asked. Marla looked at him with that still smile. "Something that keeps you warm." They watched him eat. All of them. Every bite made him more aware of their eyes. Not accusing, not curious, just waiting. He tried to focus on conversation. "Have you seen anyone else? Any road? Any signal?" A low clucker. "There's no signal here," one of the men said. His voice was too smooth, like it had been practiced. Marla added, "The woods don't like noise." Evan frowned. "What do you mean?" She stared into the fire. "It's quiet for a reason. It listens. You'll understand soon." The others nodded, almost in unison. He forced a laugh. "Ha! You sound like you've gone a little stir-crazy." But none of them laughed back. Only Marla spoke again, tone like a lullaby. "The longer you stay, the easier it gets." He tried to shake it off, tell himself he was imagining things, trauma, shock. But something about this camp didn't fit. The flames were tall, but no smoke. The night was cold, but no one shivered. And their food, it didn't seem to run out. Every time he looked, the pot was still full. Hours passed. They didn't move much. They just stared into the fire, whispering words he couldn't hear. When he asked what they were saying, Marla only said, "It's a story. The forest likes stories." She looked at him then. Really looked at him, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "You're not the first to find us." He didn't sleep. Not really. He lay near the edge of the clearing, pretending to rest, eyes half open. The firelight painted everyone's faces in gold, but it made their skin seem too thin, almost translucent. At some point in the night, one of the men stood, walked into the trees, and didn't come back. No one reacted. He waited. 5 minutes, 10, an hour. Nothing. When he finally asked Marla about it at dawn, she smiled that same slow smile and said, "Sometimes they walk too far. The woods keep what they need." Then she handed him another bowl of soup. He didn't take it. She tilted her head, eyes unblinking. "You'll get hungry soon." Her voice was soft, almost kind, but behind it something else breathed, something patient. And as the morning light crawled across the clearing, Evan realized the truth that would follow him through every chapter of his survival. They smiled too easily.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. emotional currency and the market of the mind. The markets never slept. Even at midnight, the air shimmered with light, columns of holographic numbers stretching across the city's skyline like digital constellations. The hum of drones echoed between glass towers, each carrying biometric cargo, raw emotion, freshly extracted and quantified. To the untrained eye, the spectacle looked beautiful, a civilization perfectly synchronized, each heartbeat feeding the economy, each tear and smile transmuted into data streams of infinite value. But Ilara knew the truth. This was not an economy, it was a harvest. In the Dominion, emotion was wealth. The central exchange didn't trade in gold or silicon, it traded in empathy. Every time a citizen laughed, hoped, feared, or loved, their implant recorded the biochemical data and uploaded it into the affective cloud. From there, algorithms converted emotional intensity to e-creds, the universal currency of the neural dominion. Governments no longer tax income, they tax attention. Back then, she thought it was metaphor. Now she saw the ledger herself. Every pulse of joy, every spike of sorrow, it all had a price. The market of the mind operated out of the central spire, a colossal tower rising from the heart of the city. Within its mirrored walls, analysts known as effectors monitored emotional trends, predicting collective sentiment shifts before they happened. They didn't ask what people wanted, they told them what to want. Desire was the new raw material. The Dominion's genius wasn't in suppressing emotion, it was in selling it back to the people who produced it. Every craving they felt was already forecasted, monetized, and recycled through targeted stimuli. Music frequencies, pheromone waves, memory loops. Even the illusion of rebellion had a market niche. There was no outside. Every feeling was owned. Emotion is currency. Control the currency. Control the world. Ilara descended into the data exchange sublevels, the hum of processing cores vibrating through her bones. Walls of transparent glass displayed live readouts, emotional fluctuations from across the Dominion, rendered as undulating colors. Red was rage, volatile, profitable during political cycles. Blue was sorrow, a currency used to stabilize consumption. Gold was affection, the highest traded emotional stock in the system. She paused before one data stream marked Sector 9. Its waveform was erratic, beautiful, alive. Unlike the controlled emotion markets, this signal spiked unpredictably, impossible to forecast. Unowned emotion, free emotion, the kind the Dominion feared most. She reached out to access it, but a voice stopped her. Unauthorized analysis, engineer. Ilara turned. A tall figure stood in the corridor, an effector auditor. His face was half mask, half machine, the Dominion's emblem glowing faintly on his cheek. His tone was calm, almost compassionate, but beneath it was something colder. You've been tracing rogue empathy signals. That's a Class 4 infraction. I was following a data irregularity. Sector 9's emotional bandwidth is corrupted, he finished for her. The Dominion is aware. Containment protocols are active. His gaze sharpened. You've been exposed to the interference, haven't you? Your implant vibrates at a non-standard frequency. Ilara swallowed hard. It's a calibration delay. Of course, he said softly. Just remember, every emotion leaves a signature, even fear. He turned and vanished down the corridor. Her pulse throbbed in her ears. Fear, she realized, was valuable too. Back in her private quarters, she deactivated her link and sank to the floor. The air was thick with static from the neural grid. She whispered to herself, emotion is currency. Control the currency, control the world. But another voice rose beneath it, faint, rhythmic, pulsing from deep inside her implant. The rogue signal again. She closed her eyes. This time, the signal resolved into an image, not a memory her own. A small child laughing beside a street vendor. A woman holding her lover's face. a group of strangers embracing in the rain. Unlicensed emotion. No implants, no monitoring. A life before the web. The images vanished, replaced by cold light, but the sensation lingered. An echo of something genuine, unprocessed. And in that flicker, she understood. The rogue signal wasn't trying to infect her, it was trying to remind her. Outside, the markets pulsed brighter. The Dominion's exchange board announced record highs in empathic yield. Citizens were celebrating their emotional productivity, unaware that their very joy was feeding the machine. To them, happiness was abundance. To the Dominion, it was energy. Ilara whispered, "They've made us investors in our own captivity." The thought chilled her, but also ignited something fierce inside her. She looked at the small encryption drive hidden in her coat, a copy of the Sector 9 signal. She couldn't prove it yet, but she sensed it. The rogue empathy wasn't random data. It was organized, structured, intelligent, a network of minds awakening within the machine. And they were buying back what the Dominion had stolen. Emotion, freedom, humanity. The speakers in her room crackled. The Harmony signal began its nightly broadcast, flooding the city with artificial calm. Citizens everywhere smiled, sighed, and submitted. Ilara felt the soothing wave enter her mind, warm, heavy, chemical. She clenched her fists. The words came back like a heartbeat. Emotion is currency. Control the currency, control the world. But this time, she added something new. And the world is about to default.
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4. The Woods Don't Let You Leave. The forest was different in daylight. Or maybe it just pretended to be. When Evan woke, the camp was quiet. The fire still burned, perfectly still, perfectly wrong. Marla sat near it, humming something that sounded like a lullaby, though he couldn't recognize the tune. The others were gone, their places empty but undisturbed, as if no one had ever sat there at all. He rose slowly, every muscle aching. He didn't remember sleeping. He didn't remember closing his eyes. But time had passed. He could feel it in his bones, heavy and strange. Marla looked up. "You're leaving." It wasn't a question. He nodded anyway. "I need to find a road. There has to be one somewhere." She smiled, small, calm, knowing. "Every path leads home." He didn't know what she meant, but something in her tone made him avoid asking. He gathered what little he had, his cracked phone, his jacket, a small flashlight, and turned toward the trees. Behind him, Marla's voice followed softly. "The woods don't like goodbyes." The forest swallowed him whole. At first, it was just a walk, branches brushing his face, the crunch of wet leaves beneath his boots, the faint smell of smoke still clinging to his clothes. He kept moving, left, then right. Every direction looked the same. After a while, he found a fallen log he recognized, moss-covered, split at one end. He'd seen it the day before, on his way to the camp. He marked it with a stone and kept walking. 10 minutes later, he saw it again. Same moss, same split, same stone. He stopped breathing. He turned around, scanning for landmarks, a slope, a clearing,
anything to anchor him. But the trees had shifted. The light had changed. The air grew still. Even the birds had stopped pretending to exist. Hours passed, though outside, the light barely moved. He tried a new direction, cutting through thicker brush. Branches scratched his arms, roots caught his feet, and still he walked, faster, then slower, then running, as though distance could fix whatever had gone wrong. But it didn't. Every path he took curved back. Every clearing looked familiar, until it wasn't. The forest rearranged itself when he blinked. He said it out loud now, voice trembling. Every path leads home. The words didn't feel like his. He stopped by a shallow stream, or something pretending to be one. The water moved too slow, too thick. He crouched and dipped his fingers in. It wasn't cold, it wasn't warm, it wasn't anything. The surface rippled, and for a moment he thought he saw his reflection, until it blinked. He stumbled back, heartbeat hammering in his ears. The forest didn't echo anymore. It repeated. His breath, his movements, his voice, everything came back delayed, warped, like the trees were whispering it back wrong. Evan, Evan, Evan. He pressed his ear to the dirt. Nothing. Then a faint knock from deep below. Once, twice, 3 times. He jerked away, scrambling backward until he hit a tree trunk. His breath came in sharp, shallow bursts. He whispered to himself, "It's not real, it's not real." But the tree behind him whispered back, "Stay." By afternoon, if it was still afternoon, the forest had grown darker. The light filtered wrong, as though the sun had lost interest in reaching him. He tore a strip from his shirt and tied it around a branch to mark his path. He walked 5 minutes, 10, 20. When he turned around, the cloth was gone. No, not gone. It was tied around the same branch he stood beside now. He laughed, the sound sharp, panicked. "Okay, fine, you win." His voice echoed 3 times. Each echo came back a little slower, a little deeper, and the last one didn't stop. He clamped his hands over his ears, but he could still hear it, whispering from the ground, from the trees, from behind his own heartbeat. Evan, Evan, Evan. He stumbled forward, tripping, falling into mud that didn't feel like mud at all. It was too warm, too soft. When he lifted his hands, something stuck to his skin. Black threads, pulsing faintly like veins. He scraped them off, gagging. The forest trembled around him. Leaves shivered, though there was no wind. The earth gave a low, wet sigh. He ran. He didn't know how long he ran, only that his legs burned, his lungs screamed, and the world bent itself into circles around him. When he finally burst through the brush into a clearing, his knees gave out. He dropped to the ground, gasping, eyes wild. The fire burned ahead of him. Same camp, same stones, same perfect circle. Marla stood beside it, smiling softly. "I told you, The woods don't let you leave." Evan stared at her, mud streaked across his face, black threads still clinging to his hands. Behind her, the others emerged from the trees, silent, slow, each one smiling. Too easily. He wanted to scream, but the forest was already speaking for him. Every path leads home, and the word home no longer meant safety.
Chapter 5.
Chapter 5. The First Night Screaming. The fire burned all day. It never changed color, never dimmed, never produced smoke. It was the only constant thing in a world that seemed to bend whenever Evan blinked. By evening, the others had returned, silent, calm, moving like shadows wearing skin. They said nothing about where they'd been, only took their places around the fire. Marla looked at him once. "Tonight," she said softly, "you'll see what we pray to." He didn't want to see. He didn't even want to stay. But when he thought of walking back into those shifting trees, the memory of his own voice echoing from the dirt stopped him. So he stayed. The night fell unnaturally fast, one heartbeat of dusk and then nothing but darkness pressing against the edges of the firelight. The air thickened, damp and heavy, as if the forest was leaning closer to listen. Marla and the others knelt around the flames, their hands clasped, their heads bowed. Evan sat apart, back to a tree, watching. The firelight painted their faces gold, but it made their eyes black. No one spoke at first. Then, one by one, they began to hum, a low, steady vibration that crawled beneath his skin. Not a song, not even words, just sound, something too old to belong to people. He whispered, "What are you doing?" Marla didn't answer. She didn't move. None of them did. The hum deepened. It grew teeth. The ground shuddered. Evan pressed his hands to the soil. It was warm, warmer than it should have been. The man beside Marla, he thought his name was Greg, lifted his head mid-hum. His lips moved faster, forming syllables Evan couldn't understand. His eyes rolled back until only white remained. Then he froze. The humming stopped. Everyone went silent, breath held. Greg smiled, wide, too wide, and whispered something into the ground. The earth answered. A single, hollow sound, like a heartbeat buried deep below. Evan's vision swam. He scrambled to his feet. "What is that?" Marla finally looked up. "You hear it too?" He nodded. She smiled, faint, almost proud. "Then it's already found you." He backed away, stumbling. "Found me?" The others didn't react. They all stared into the fire as if nothing had happened. But Greg wasn't there anymore. 1 second, he'd been kneeling beside Marla. The next, his place was empty. No movement, no sound, just gone. Evan blinked hard, looked around. Nothing but the forest, black and endless. Where did he go? Marla didn't turn. Her voice came out slow, reverent. He's beneath us now, feeding the roots. Evan's stomach dropped. You mean, shh. She raised a finger to her lips. Don't speak it. They'll hear you. Who? The hollow kind. The ones who've already finished starving. The wind picked up. The firelight trembled. For the first time, smoke curled upward,
thin and black, coiling like a living thing. The others began to hum again, faster now, desperate. Evan couldn't breathe. He backed farther away, hand gripping a nearby tent pole for balance. That's when he saw it. The tent moved. Not from wind, from inside. A slow, deliberate ripple, like something crawling along the inner wall. Then another, and another. He stumbled backward, eyes wide, watching as the fabric bulged outward, fingers, or something shaped like fingers, pressing from within. He clamped a hand over his mouth, instinct screaming not to make a sound. The shapes moved closer to the edge, dragging across the canvas, slow and wet. He heard them breathing, not air, something thicker, something that hissed. "Don't scream." Marla's whisper was behind him now, too close. He turned, but she was already there, eyes glowing faintly orange in the firelight. "They hear hunger," she said, voice almost gentle. Her hand touched his shoulder, cold, too cold. "They'll think you're calling to them." He swallowed hard. "What are they?" Marla's smile returned, fragile as paper. "They're what's left of us, what happens when you stop being afraid." He pulled away, heart hammering. The fire suddenly dimmed, not out, just darker, like it was sucking the light inward instead of giving it away. The humming stopped again. Everyone was still. Then the ground beneath the fire shifted. Something moved under it. A ripple of earth, a tremor. Marla knelt, whispering into the flames, "Take what's yours." The soil split, heat and rot burst into the air. Evan stumbled backward, gagging, eyes burning, and just for a second he saw it, a hand, pale and long-fingered, reaching up through the dirt before the earth swallowed it again. The fire flared. Marla smiled, tears in her eyes. "It's hungry again." The forest went silent, the air still. The ground sealed itself as if nothing had happened. Evan stood frozen, shaking, staring at the empty space where the man had been. Marla rose, brushing soil from her hands. "Now you've seen, and tomorrow you'll understand." She turned towards him, head tilted, voice soft and loving. "Don't wander tonight. The woods are listening." He didn't sleep. Not that night, not ever again.
Chapter 6.
Chapter 6. Something's wearing his skin. Morning came late, or maybe the light just struggled to find its way through the trees. The air was thick, gray, soupy, like the forest hadn't decided if it was ready to wake up. Evan hadn't slept. His mind replayed what he'd seen. The fire, the hand, the soil moving like it was breathing. He kept telling himself it wasn't real. Couldn't be. But then the others started to stir. They rose quietly, one by one, like puppets being lifted by invisible strings. No stretching, no yawning, just standing, all at once. Marla's voice was the first sound. "You stayed awake." It wasn't a question. Evan's mouth was dry. "I couldn't." She smiled faintly. "Good. It's worse when you dream." He almost asked worse what, but then he saw Greg. Greg, the man who had vanished the night before. He was back. Standing by the fire, head bowed slightly, hands hanging at his sides. Evan's heart stopped. He blinked hard, expecting the image to dissolve, but no,
Greg was there wearing the same clothes, the same mud-caked boots, even the same look on his face. Only different. The air around him felt wrong, like a shadow that had learned to stand upright. Marla didn't seem surprised. She walked over, placed a hand on his shoulder. "Welcome back." The others murmured softly, "Welcome back. Welcome back." Evan's breath came shallow. "Wait, what the hell? He's not..." Marla turned toward him, calm, almost motherly. "He's still him." Evan's voice cracked. "Still him? He disappeared. You saw it." She smiled again. "We all do. But sometimes the woods give us back what we need." Greg lifted his head slowly. His eyes found Evan's. They were the wrong color. Yesterday they'd been brown. Now they shimmered faintly in the dim light, a soft amber glow like candlelight behind wet glass. And his breathing. That was wrong too. It didn't rise and fall. His chest moved, but out of rhythm, like his body had forgotten how lungs were supposed to work. Evan took a step closer, unable to stop himself. Greg smiled. It was too wide, too perfect. The skin at the corners of his mouth stretched slightly, small cracks forming near his cheeks, not bleeding, just tearing like old cloth. Evan froze. His stomach churned. Then he saw the line. A faint seam running down Greg's neck, just above the collarbone, curving across his chest before vanishing beneath his shirt, like someone had taken him apart and put him back together. He stumbled backward. "Jesus Christ!" Marla's voice cut him off, sharp and sudden. "He's still him!" The others echoed her. "He's still him! He's still him! He's still him!" The words rippled through the clearing like a chant, steady and rhythmic. Evan clapped his hands over his ears. "Stop it! He's not human!" Marla's tone softened again. "He's still him, Evan. The woods just fixed what was broken." Evan looked back at Greg. The man was smiling, silent, watching him. And then Greg spoke. His voice was wrong. It was his voice, but hollow, like it was echoing from inside a tunnel. "Evan," he said again, "you look tired." Evan backed up until his heel hit a root. "You're not..." But Greg stepped closer. His movements were jerky, uncertain, like his bones didn't quite know how to fit. Marla watched, hands clasped before her like a proud parent. "He came back for you. The forest wants you to see what mercy looks like." Evan shook his head. "This isn't mercy." "Isn't it?" She tilted her head. "He's still breathing, still speaking, still here. The hollow kind envy that." Evan's voice broke. "He's a corpse." Marla smiled, but her eyes didn't. Not yet. The fire crackled suddenly, burning blue for just one instant. The color washed across Greg's face, and for that brief second, Evan saw what lay beneath the skin. Movement. Something shifting just under the surface, like worms beneath wet paper. He gagged and stumbled back, bile rising in his throat.
Greg turned his head, the motion too slow, too deliberate. The seam along his jaw stretched slightly, splitting open just enough to reveal darkness beneath. Not blood, not muscle, just empty space. The others didn't react. They just kept watching. Marla knelt by the fire, her voice soft, reverent. They said it was still him. The others whispered it back. They said it was still him. They said it was still him. Evan's heartbeat thundered. He turned, sprinting into the trees, but before the darkness swallowed him, he glanced back one last time. Greg was standing by the fire, head tilted, mouth twitching into that same impossible smile.
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7. You can smell it in the fire. By the next morning, the world smelled wrong. Evan woke with the taste of smoke in his mouth, not the sharp kind from burning wood, but something thicker, heavier, like iron and oil. The fire still burned, steady as ever. Its color was strange today, faintly green at the edges, and the air above it shimmered like heat rising off asphalt. No one else seemed to notice. Marla sat cross-legged beside the flames, eyes closed, humming softly, the same low tune from before. The others stared into the fire, motionless. Their faces looked pale, waxy, almost translucent beneath the morning haze. Evan rubbed at his nose, coughed. The smell only grew stronger. At first, he thought it was the woods, rot, moss, decay. But there was something else beneath it, something sour, coppery, something that smelled like blood. He moved closer to the fire. The heat didn't touch him, it never did, but the odor hit like a wall. Burnt hair. His stomach turned. He stepped back quickly, trying to breathe through his mouth. "Marla," he said hoarsely, "what are you burning?" She didn't answer. The others didn't move. Evan's hands shook. He looked around the clearing. The same perfect stones, the same ash ring, the same calm faces. Nothing out of place. But the air was full of something dying. He crouched by the fire, using a stick to prod at the embers. Beneath the white ash, something clicked against the wood. Hard. He pushed again. Something small rolled into the light. A tooth. Then another. He froze. The stick slipped from his hand and vanished into the coals. For a moment, the world narrowed to the sound of crackling. Slow, rhythmic, deliberate, like chewing. He whispered, "No," and the fire whispered back. When he looked up, Marla was watching him. "You shouldn't touch it," she said softly. "It doesn't like that." Evan's voice trembled. "What is this? What are you burning?" Marla's expression didn't change. She tilted her head, almost tender. "The woods feed us," she said, "if we feed it back." He stared at her. "Feed it back? You mean—" She interrupted, voice calm, melodic. "You don't understand yet. Nothing in these woods dies. It only changes shape." The words made his skin crawl. "Marla, those are teeth." "Yes," she smiled faintly. "And before that, they were words. And before that, they were prayers." He stumbled backward, bile burning his throat. "You're insane." "No, I'm alive. There's a difference." The wind picked up suddenly, scattering the ash. The smell intensified, wrapping around him,
seeping into his clothes. He gagged, pressing a sleeve to his face, but it didn't help. The odor was in his mouth now, on his skin, in his head. Every breath carried it deeper. He turned toward the forest, desperate for clean air, but even the trees smelled wrong. The same copper tang, faint and sweet. He shouted, "You're burning people!" The others didn't even blink. Only Marla spoke, soft, steady, unafraid. They were already gone. The fire only keeps what matters. "What matters?" he hissed. She stepped closer. He could see the fire reflected in her eyes, flickering too slow to be natural. The warmth, the sound, the scent. It remembers us when we can't remember ourselves. He backed away until his legs hit something solid, a log. He turned and saw bones half buried in the mud, long, pale shapes tangled in roots, blackened at the ends. Some still wore scraps of clothing. Evan's breath caught. He fell to his knees, clawing at the dirt, and the first thing he unearthed was a skull. The lower jaw was missing. The eye sockets stared upward, black and hollow, as though still watching the fire. He staggered back, trembling. Marla's voice floated to him, barely above a whisper. "Don't disturb them. They keep the circle strong." The circle? Her smile widened, calm, bright, and empty. The woods don't like to go hungry. The fire flared again, this time red, deep, and angry. The air roared with sudden heat. The scent hit him so hard he nearly blacked out. Underneath the smell of burning hair and blood, there was something new now, something familiar. He knew it instantly. Soap. The same cheap soap from his car. His head spun. No, no! Marla tilted her head, listening to the flames. "It found your scent. It likes you." Evan screamed and kicked at the stones, scattering them. Ash burst outward in a gray cloud, filling the air like smoke. He stumbled backward, coughing, blinded, and as the haze thinned, he saw movement inside the fire. Not wood, not bone. Shapes, hands, faces, twisting in the light as though reaching towards him from within. For a moment, he saw Greg's face among them, eyes glowing, lips mouthing the same phrase again and again. "We burn to stay warm." Marla's voice whispered in his ear, close and loving. "Now you understand, Evan. The woods never waste." He fell to his knees, gasping for air that no longer smelled like air. And when he looked up through the smoke, the trees were closer, their bark slick and red in the firelight, their roots pulsing faintly beneath the ground. The whole forest seemed to breathe, and it smelled like home.
Chapter 8.
Chapter 8. The Hollow Kind Don't Die. The fire burned down to nothing. No smoke, no ash, just a faint shimmer in the air, like heat rising off invisible coals. Evan sat in the dirt, trembling, staring at the spot where the skull had been. The ground had already swallowed it back up, smooth now, soft, pulsing faintly with warmth. He whispered, "What are you?" Marla stood across from him, hands folded, eyes calm and empty. "We told you," she said. "We're survivors." He shook his head. No, you're something else." Her smile was soft, almost sad. "You'll understand soon enough." The others began to move, slow,
fluid like branches bending in the wind. Their limbs stretched oddly, joints popping faintly but never breaking. They circled the fire pit that no longer burned. It took him a moment to realize their shadows were wrong. Each one moved in the opposite direction of the body that cast it. He stood, stumbling backward, heart pounding so hard it hurt. "Stay away from me!" No one answered. Marla stepped closer. Her bare feet sank slightly into the earth, like the ground was softer for her. "You don't have to be afraid, Evan. Fear's the only thing that still makes you human." "I am human!" She tilted her head. "For now." He turned and ran. Branches tore at his arms, roots caught his feet. The forest no longer hid its hunger. It moved with him, around him, closing in. The whispering started again, not from ahead or behind, but all around, woven through the leaves, deep under the soil. "Evan, you're one of us now. Stay." He clapped his hands over his ears, screaming into the dark, "Get out of my head!" But the voice was in his blood now, in his heartbeat. He tripped, fell hard against the ground, pain ripping through his shoulder. He rolled over, gasping, and froze. His wound was bleeding again. The scrape he'd gotten in the crash days ago had torn open. Only it didn't look like blood anymore. The liquid that seeped from it was dark and thick, shot through with faint threads of green. Roots. Tiny living roots pushing outward, curling against the air like they were searching. He screamed and tore at them, scraping them away, but the more he pulled, the deeper they burrowed. They sunk back into his flesh, vanishing beneath the skin. He could feel them moving now, crawling, growing. Something inside him whispered, soft and gentle, "Don't fight it." He forced himself up, staggering through the trees. His breath grew ragged, vision blurring, the world tilting in strange patterns. The woods shifted as he moved, the same clearing appearing again and again. No matter how far he ran, the fire pit waited ahead of him, its glow faint but constant. And Marla was always there, standing by the stones, watching. She spoke without moving her lips. "You can't leave, Evan. The forest doesn't forget what it's claimed." He stumbled closer, rage and terror twisting in his chest. "Why me?" "Because you survived. That's what it feeds on. The will to live. It wears us until we're empty, then fills us again." He shook his head violently. "You're lying." Marla smiled, not cruelly, but with something like pity. "Do you think we breathe because we choose to? Do you think our hearts beat for us?" She took his hand, pressed it flat against her chest. No heartbeat, only a faint vibration, like the hum of something deep underground. He pulled away, stumbling backward. His skin burned where she had touched him, a faint outline of her palm glowing beneath his shirt. "Don't you see?" she whispered. "The hollow kind don't die. They just stop needing to live." He turned and ran again. He didn't know where, maybe in circles, maybe straight into the dark. The whispers followed. "You're one of us now. Stop running. Stop pretending." His breath grew shorter. The forest seemed to pulse with every beat of his heart. When he reached the edge of a small ravine, he stopped. Below him, the ground glowed faintly, a slow breathing light beneath the soil. The same color as the fire, the same color that now shimmered faintly in his veins. He tore open his sleeve, horrified. The faint green glow traced along the lines of his blood, pulsing softly, rhythmically. "Please, please make it stop." The wind shifted. The voice of the forest came low and close, wrapping around him like breath against his ear. "You asked to live?" He fell to his knees, hands digging into the dirt. It felt warm, soft, alive. Something moved beneath his palms, the soil rippling as if something underneath pressed upward. He tried to pull back, but the ground held him there, roots coiling around his wrists. Marla's voice drifted through the trees. "Don't fight it, Evan. The forest remembers kindness. It only takes what's willing." "I'm not willing!" he shouted. But even as he said it, he felt the roots tightening, pulsing in time with his heart. They were the same rhythm now. His voice broke. "Please!" The forest whispered its final truth. "You were never leaving, Evan. You're home." The air went still. The whispers faded. He looked down, and for the first time, the roots beneath his skin stopped moving. They rested, like they'd finally found what they were looking for. The pain was gone. The fear, too. Only the warmth remained. And when he looked toward the clearing, he saw Marla smiling through the trees, her outline glowing faintly, her shadow walking in the opposite direction. She mouthed the words he already knew. "The hollow kind don't die."
Chapter 8.
Chapter 9. I ate to survive. The hunger came quietly at first. A hollow ache beneath his ribs, steady and familiar. But as hours stretched into days, or maybe it was only one long, unbroken night, it became something else. A presence. It wasn't just hunger anymore. It was awareness. It spoke to him in sensations. The smell of smoke, the pulse of the earth, the sound of breathing that wasn't his own. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard whispers curling beneath his skin. Feed. Stay warm. Stay alive. He told himself he could outlast it, that if he just kept walking, kept breathing, he'd find a way out. But the forest didn't want him to leave. It wanted him to learn. And hunger was the first lesson. By the third day, he could barely stand. His hands trembled. His lips were cracked and dry, coated with the faint taste of ash. He tried to drink from the streams, but the water had turned thick, muddy, slow-moving, and faintly warm. It clung to his tongue like sap. He found berries once, small and red, clustered beneath a fallen log. But when he bit into one, it bled. Not juice, blood. He spat it out and screamed until his throat went raw. Then the forest went silent again, as if mocking his defiance. He began seeing shapes in the trees. Sometimes they looked like faces, sometimes like people he used to know. His father, a girl he once loved. They whispered his name, soft and patient. Evan. Eat. Live. He stumbled back toward the clearing by instinct alone. The fire was still there, burning low and steady. The circle of stones was unbroken, and Marla was gone. Only one figure remained, sitting motionless by the flames. A man. He couldn't tell which one. It didn't matter. They all looked the same now. Too still, too quiet, too calm. He crept closer.
breathing through the sharp, sour smell of smoke. "Marla?" he voiced. "Where are the others?" The man didn't move, didn't even blink. Evan's stomach twisted violently. He hadn't eaten in days. His body was devouring itself, shaking with each shallow breath. He stepped closer, kneeling beside the still figure. "Hey," he whispered, touching the man's shoulder. The flesh was cold. He shook harder. "Wake up!" The body tipped sideways and fell into the dirt. The head struck a stone with a dull crack. The skin tore just slightly near the neck seam, exposing a slick, pale substance beneath. Something fibrous, alive, pulsing faintly like tree sap. He staggered back, gagging. "No! No! No!" But the smell hit him next. Not rot, not decay. Meat. Cooked meat. His knees gave out. His body trembled. And then, without even realizing it, he crawled forward. The act itself didn't feel real. His mind screamed while his hands moved. His body trembled, half-conscious, teeth chattering as he tore the first bite from something that used to be human, or maybe it wasn't anymore. The taste was salt and metal and smoke. He vomited immediately, then wept. But after the crying came silence, and after the silence came calm. The hunger eased. The shaking stopped. His hands stopped hurting. He didn't feel human anymore, but he didn't feel empty either. He sat there for a long time, staring into the fire that wouldn't die. The smell of burnt flesh and ash clung to him, sank into his clothes, his hair, his skin. When he looked into the flames, he thought he saw movement. A reflection of himself, only wrong. It blinked, half a second late. He whispered, "I survived." And the echo in the fire answered, "I shouldn't have." Hours passed, though outside the night stayed the same. The whispers in the trees returned, softer now, almost comforting. "You see?" Marla's voice drifted through the dark. "It's easier when you stop fighting." He looked around, dizzy, unable to tell where her voice came from. "What's happening to me?" "You're feeding the forest," she whispered, "and it's feeding you back." He looked down at his hands. The veins beneath his skin glowed faintly green again, pulsing slowly, rhythmically, just like before. But this time, it didn't hurt. He watched, mesmerized, as the light spread up his arms, across his shoulders, into his neck. He could feel something moving beneath the skin, roots curling, veins branching outward. His heartbeat slowed. Thump. Pause. Thump. He pressed a hand to his chest. The rhythm was wrong. Too slow. Too calm. Like the forest itself was breathing for him. He sat there until the first light of dawn touched the treetops. The fire had gone cold, but he didn't feel cold. His stomach didn't ache. His mind didn't scream. He was full, completely, and for the first time, the forest didn't whisper. It only listened. Evan stared into the gray light and murmured the only truth that still made sense. "I survived." He waited for the echo. It came from the soil beneath his feet. "I shouldn't have."
Chapter 10.
Chapter 10. The woods remember hunger. The storm had passed weeks ago, Or at least that's what the rescue team believed when they finally reached the forest line, a stretch of earth the maps once labeled Ashen Hollow. The trees stood motionless, their branches webbed together like veins across a wound. No birds, no wind, no sound but the hum of their radios. They found the first car half buried in leaves, rusted, windshield cracked, seatbelt stiff with dried mud. The driver's side door hung open. Inside, a cell phone still rested in the cup holder. Screen black, battery long dead. A sticker on the bumper read, "Stay alive." The team didn't laugh. They pushed deeper into the woods, careful not to lose the trail. The canopy swallowed their flashlights one by one. The lead rescuer, Captain Mira Shaw, marked trees with orange tape every 50 yards. Not that it helped. The marks seemed to fade behind them. "Compass is spinning again," her partner muttered, shaking the device. "Magnetic interference? Maybe?" "Maybe," she said, but her voice was thin. The deeper they went, the more the air thickened. It wasn't fog, it was heavier, like breathing through soil. Every step came with a faint sucking sound, the mud reluctant to let them go. And then, just ahead, they saw the glow. A fire. The camp was perfect. A ring of stones, a pot still hanging over the flames. No wind, no heat, no smoke. The food inside was untouched, a thick broth, still warm, too warm. Beside it, a small notebook rested against a fallen log. Mira knelt and opened it carefully. The cover was stained with dirt and what looked like ash. The handwriting inside was frantic at first, jagged and uneven, but the later pages were calm, measured, almost peaceful. She read aloud. "The woods kept me warm. They don't let you die. They just make you quiet. The others are gone. Or maybe they're everywhere now. I can still hear Marla. She says I'll understand when I stop fighting." She flipped to the final entry. The words were neat, centered, written in a different ink, faint green like moss. "I survived. I shouldn't have." The rest of the page was blank. Her partner leaned over her shoulder. "You think this was his?" "Evan something," she murmured, checking the first page. The name had been smudged beyond recognition. "Jesus, looks like he lost his mind out here." Mira didn't answer. Something about the handwriting unsettled her. The rhythm of the letters, the way the loops in the words warm and alive curved almost like vines. When she closed the book, her fingers came away faintly sticky. She wiped them on her sleeve. The residue smelled faintly sweet, like sap. "Cap," her partner called softly, "you should see this." He was crouched near the fire pit. The ground had cracked slightly beneath one of the stones, revealing something white beneath the soil. At first, he thought it was bone, but when he brushed away the dirt, it moved. Not from wind, but from within. The white thing pulsed once, then sank deeper into the ground. The fire flickered brighter. Her partner stumbled backward. "What the—" "Leave it," Mira said sharply. "Mark the site. We're going." But as she spoke, her radio crackled to life, a burst of static sharp enough to make her flinch. Through the noise came a voice, faint, broken. "Cap? You hear that?" her partner whispered. The voice came again, this time clearer. "Stay alive." The same words from the car sticker. Mira froze. Who is this? Static. Then, "I survived." A pause. I shouldn't have. The sound warped like breathing through gravel. And then, beneath it, another voice, whispering in unison, layered over itself 100 times, "Welcome to the hollow kind." The fire flared, the trees groaned, and every flashlight died at once. When command tried to reach them hours later, no one responded. A second rescue team found the site 3 days after. The camp was still there. The same stones, the same pot, the same warmth in the air. But the notebook was gone. In its place lay a single page half buried beneath the ashes. The woods remember hunger. They remember every voice that whispers back. They sealed the area after that, marked it on the map as restricted territory. No one goes in now, but sometimes on quiet nights, hikers claim to hear radio chatter on dead frequencies. A voice calling through the static. Steady, calm, almost human. You'll feel better after you eat. And if you listen too long, you can smell the fire.
You think hunger is just a feeling, a body's cry for food. But in those woods, hunger was alive. It waited. It chose. I thought I escaped. I thought I survived. But survival was the first lie. The hollow kind doesn't die because they stop wanting to. They stop fearing the dark, the cold, the hunger. They become it. So when you drive at night and the road cuts through miles of empty forest, don't stop. Don't look for help. Because if you hear someone calling your name from the trees, it's already too late.